are called the being obligolian strivings, which consist of the following 5, namely, the first striving, to have in their ordinary being existence everything satisfying and really necessary for their planetary body. The second striving, to have a constant and unflagging instinctive need for self-perfection in the sense of being. The third, the conscious striving to know ever more and more concerning the laws of world creation and world maintenance. The fourth, the striving from the beginning of their existence to pay for their arising and their individuality as quickly as possible, in order afterwards to be free to lighten as much as possible the sorrow of our common Father. And the fifth, the striving always to assist the most rapid perfecting of other beings, both those similar to oneself and those of other forms, up to the degree of the sacred martphotai, that is, up to the degree of self-individuality. At this period, when every terrestrial three-centered being existed and worked consciously upon himself in accordance with these 5 strivings, many of them, thanks to this, quickly arrived at results of objective attainments perceptible to others. Of course, these objective attainments then, as it is said, attracted the attention of all around them, who thereupon made those who had attained stand out from their midst, and paid them every kind of respect. They also strove with joy to merit the attention of these outstanding beings, and to have for themselves their counsel and advice, how they themselves could attain the same perfecting. And these outstanding beings of that period began in their turn to make the most attained among themselves stand out. And this outstanding being thereby automatically became, without either hereditary or other right, the chief of them all. And recognizing him as chief, his directings were spread correspondingly, and this recognition included not only the separate neighboring parts of the surface of your planet, but also even the neighboring continents and islands. At that period, the counsel and guidance, and in general every word of these chiefs, became law for all the 3-brained beings there, and were fulfilled by them with devotion and joy, not as it had proceeded there before the results obtained by the very saintly labors of Ashiata Shiemash, nor as it again proceeded and still continues to proceed, since they themselves destroyed the fruits of his very saintly labors. That is to say, these strange 3-brained beings, your favorites, now carry out the various commands and orders of their chiefs, and as they are called kings, only from fear of what are called bayonets and lousy cells, of which there are a great many at the disposition of these chiefs and kings. The results of the very saintly labors of Ashiata Shiemash were then also very definitely reflected in respect of that terrible peculiarity of the manifestation of the psyche of your favorites, namely in their irresistible urge for the periodic destruction of each other's existence. The process of reciprocal destruction established there and ensuing from that terrible particularity of their psyche entirely ceased on the continent Asia, and only proceeded occasionally on those large and small parts of the surface of that planet of yours which were far from the continent Asia. And this continued there only because, owing to their distance, the influence of the initiates and priests could not reach and be transubstantiated in the presence of the beings breeding on these parts of the surface of your planet. But the most astonishing and significant result of the very saintly labors of Ashiata Shiemash was that at that period, not only did the duration of the existence of these unfortunates become a little more normal, that is to say, it began to increase, but also what is called the death rate also diminished. And at the same time, the number of their results manifested for the prolongation of their generation, that is, as they say, their birth rate, diminished to at least a fifth. Thereby there was even practically demonstrated one of the cosmic laws, namely what is called the law of equilibrium of vibrations, that is, of vibrations arising from the evolutions and involutions of the cosmic substances required for the most great omnicosmic Trogoautoegocrat. The said decline in both their death rate and their birth rate proceeded because they approximated to an existence normal for the three-centered beings. They also began to radiate from themselves vibrations responding more closely to the requirements of great nature, thanks to which nature needed less of those vibrations which are in general obtained from the destruction of the existence of beings. You will also understand well about this cosmic law, equilibrium of vibrations, when at the proper time I shall explain to you in detail, as I've already many times promised you, concerning all the general fundamental cosmic laws. It was just in this way, my boy, and in such a sequence, that there, in that period, thanks to the conscious labors of the very saintly Ashiata Shiemash, the said welfare, unprecedented for your favorites, was gradually created, but to the infinite sorrow of all more or less consciously thinking individuals of all gradations of reason, shortly after the departure from this planet of the very saintly Ashiata Shiemash. These unfortunates themselves, after the manner that had become in general proper to them before, in respect of every good attainment of their ancestors, totally destroyed it all. And thus it was they destroyed, and thus it was they swept away from the surface of their planet all that welfare, that even the rumor has failed to reach contemporary beings there that once upon a time such bliss existed. In certain inscriptions which have survived from ancient times and have reached the contemporary beings of that planet, there is, however, some information that there once existed on their planet what is called a special kind of state organization, and at the head of every such state were beings of the highest attainments. And on the basis of this information, the contemporary beings have invented just a mere name for this state organization. They call it a priest organization, and that is all. But what constituted this priest organization, how and why it was, is it not all the same to the contemporary beings of the planet Earth what ancient savages did